lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan.
I'm Manny.
And today we're going to be talking book one of Fatale, Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips. Title of this one is Death Chases Me. I haven't read this in a long time. I remember, I was getting it when it first came out. I ended up picking up the trades as well because I love this series. I like to double dip when it comes to Brubaker and Phillips all the time.
So do I.
And it was so different than anything they had done before in certain ways. It definitely has the noir vibe that you can expect from all of their books. But one thing I didn't remember, Dave Stewart was the colorist.
I know. I wanted to talk about that too because lately their colorist has been Jacob Phillips, which is Sean Phillips' son.
Yeah. Before that was Elizabeth Breitweiser.
Yeah. So this was a I don't even know if they did other projects with Dave Stewart. I'd have to look, but it definitely gave the book a different vibe. And I mean, Dave also colors Hellboy, right?
Right. So that's why, like, as I was reading, I'm like, it's a perfect match, right? Because this is definitely like, as you can see, right, like that almost looks like a Lovecraftian creature on this dude's head.
Man. I mean, you got like a Lovecraftian creature with a Tommy gun. Yeah. I'm all in, bro.
Yeah, and right away, dude, the prologue drops you in at a funeral, and it's the funeral for a Dominic Reigns. This is going to be the guy we basically will be following for the majority of this book because this takes place in present day, but we're going to jump back to the 50s. Then we see this mysterious woman come up. Basically, I would say the main character of this entire
thing. She is the Fatale of the title, or the Femme Fatale. What they're doing here is playing with like the mythology almost creating a mythology around the idea of a femme fatale, which is a standard trope in a lot of noir. The woman with a past, the woman who's manipulating like the hero in some way, and then ends up falling in love with him. So they're really leaning in the tropes, but in a way that is reinventing them and almost exploring the concept in a weird meta way. I mean, the fusing of horror and noir in this is very interesting and nothing I've seen before, honestly.
Yeah. And I love that these little symbols mean something on the gravestone. And she's like, oh, it's a made up symbol. My grandmother had them on her grave too. She and Mr. Raines were in love once. I'm just going to say it now because whatever, like this book's been out for a while, but there is no grandmother. It's her,
her. Yeah.
And
there's something up with her. She doesn't age, and
I love this too because like he gives her the name. I love his name too. Nicholas Lash. That's a great name. And he's like, Dominic was my godfather. And she's like, do people call you Nick? Not if I can help it. Basically, and you'll see that later why nobody calls him Nick. But then, he goes to this house and he's basically inherited all this stuff. And he's like, he's digging through it. He's like, there's detective novels that he would churn out. Bestseller, sure, but garbage. And then he finds this unpublished manuscript called The Losing Side of Eternity, which the name itself doesn't, it means something, you'll eventually find out throughout the series. But, he's like, oh shit, this is like when it's dated, like his first novel didn't even come out till 3 years later.
Right. So this is an early script that Dominic had written.
Right. So as he's there, these like guys with fucking guns come out. I love these I love the build of their face. They're just like super bulky with like these long chins. And so she's like, oh shit, I got to get out of here. And what happens?
They almost look identical. I think they're supposed to almost.
They are supposed to, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Joe comes in with a gun randomly. So like things are just heating up, dude. Like none of this all makes sense. None of it. Nothing leads.
Yeah, you're Brubaker's a fantastic writer, man. And like he really puts you in the mindset of Nicholas because like you're just as confused as he is, but the story is just pulling you along, man. Brubaker is one of the best people that knows how to just drop you into a story and you fucking go, man.
Yeah, he's my favorite writer. There's no question. If somebody asks me who my favorite comic book writer is, it's always Ed Brubaker. I don't even like second guess it. I love
definitely
in
like my top five, and Sean Phillips and Ed Brubaker are definitely one of my favorite comic book teams, and like one of the handful of artists and writers that I just blind buy whatever they write, man.
Yeah. And as they're leaving and they're on the run from this thing, that a plane is all of a sudden chasing them, and he's like, he's basically like, what the fuck's happening, dude? She's like, I'm sorry, and boom, the fucking plane crashes, and then He's gone, wakes up in a hospital weeks later. His fucking leg is amputated. He has the
Yeah,
book somehow, finds a photo in the back. Now we're on the move, dude, and we go back to
yeah,
56. This is where we see Josephine, and
yeah.
she's at the bar, and she has this like way about her that she lures people in. She's talking to Hank.
Dominic. Yeah. No,
Well,
Hank, the cop, right?
no, this isn't Hank. This is
This is Dominic.
well, it's yeah, but I mean, he goes by Hank, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. 'Cause it's his middle name.
He his name is Dominic, but he's referred to as Hank, and he's like meeting Josephine. She's talking about this dude Walter, and
Yeah, because he's a reporter at this point.
yeah, and then you see it, right? I'll protect you, Josephine. It's happening again, she thought. And she thought, why are men such damn fools? And that's what you're talking about. Like, you're talking about like this femme fatale that just like brings people in and fucking
Yeah.
lures them in, and like they're making it more of a meta concept, and like
She
really
literally has
focusing
a
in on that.
magical pull. It's not like
Exactly.
it's literally a magical pull on men,
Yeah.
like which I love the fact that like she almost doesn't even have control over it. It just happens.
Yeah. It's pretty
I also
crazy. And we don't
I
even
also love
learn.
the shifting narrations in the book. Like you jump around from different characters, and like
Mhm.
it's
Oh, it's fantastic, dude. And like, she doesn't understand why this happens, right? At least to us.
right.
She does, I think, know somewhat. But then we go back to this dude, Walter, and who she was referring to, and he's like investigating this, like, there's this cult, right? Their fucking heads are just completely blown off on
Dude, there's
fucking
guts on the
everything.
floor.
This body hanging upside down. There's fucking like intestines. Like, look at
Uh,
this dude, too. Like, he's blind. Like, you can see his eyes are all fucking faded out. And he's like, oh, this is a crucifixion. That's not what this thing is. It's the hanged man. And so then his partner's like, the hanged. He's like, no, hanged, past tense. It's all that occult crap. And so then that he's got some sort of like inside knowledge on like, cults and stuff like that, and occult
yeah.
things like.
Yep.
And we
You're right.
again, look, flashback. Now it's World War II. We see Walter. He was a soldier in the war. We see him with Josephine, and then we see this like Nazi with this again, that Lovecraftian head squid type thing on his head. She wakes up from a nightmare, right? So this is her dreaming it. I love this. I love how intimidating Walter looks with just the shadow over his face.
Yeah. Like having Dave Stewart color this particular book was a great idea, man, because he does bring like a horror vibe to it.
And then we flash back to Hank. He can't get Josephine out of his mind. He's a married man whose wife is pregnant,
Yeah,
and he
exactly.
just, but for some reason, he doesn't even feel bad about it. And like, you'll see that later on. It's mentioned in the narration. We're not going to get too into the weeds on some of the finer details of that stuff, but he does talk about like how when he's with her, he doesn't even feel like what he's doing is wrong. And that's that spell that she's putting him under. And then you go back to Walter again, right? Now he's doing some sort of like magic where he like cuts his hand, puts it on this card, and lights it on fire. So now he's part of the whole deal, and he calls those
And then we
guys
get these
to
two
him.
guys again, yeah. And
And
there's
look,
three of them there too.
now there's three, yeah. So he's wants to meet up with their boss, and he wants to make a deal. So obviously he's trying to get out from under whatever spell, or we're led to believe that that Josephine has put him under. Again, now we're getting a little bit more backstory. She's in Walter's apartment. She's trying to find something, and she doesn't find what she needs.
She finds a symbol on the floor, which is she knows that he was hiding something there because that's a protective symbol, but she doesn't find what she needs.
Yeah, I love this too, right here, this panel where she touches, she's like, I can still taste him on her lips.
Really good narration, but that's always Ed Brubaker, man. He really knows how to write like hard-boiled like crime fiction narration like nobody else, man.
And it's weird because like who's speaking in this moment? Like, who is narrating this? Because it's not her. It talks in third person. So it's just,
that's why I'm saying, like, I love that the narration perspective shifts, but it's done so well that it's not jarring. It works for every scene. It enhances the storytelling.
So what's weird too is like, we didn't mention it, but Dominic Hank is a reporter. He doesn't even write novels. So that eventually comes later, and he's like with his buddy, and like their story made the front page he's just like, what the fuck, like what the hell is Hank doing? And this guy's like, fuck if I know, dude. So like now he has to figure out what's going on with his buddy. We again come back to another cult. They're doing some sort of ritual in here. Walt gets busted in the back of his head. He's just like, motherfucker. And
Yeah,
he
and
chases
Walter's
it.
also dying. He's sick because he keeps coughing up blood. So
Yeah, I love this too. The little death worshipping junkie was faster than he looked. Bastard. Well, I love this. Like the inner dialogue or the inner narration is just, it's always so good. And each one like has such a distinct voice. The only one that you don't know is the one that's talking about in the third person with Joseph.
yeah,
So he chases this dude down. And again, like you said, he's dying. I mean, he just beats the crap out of this kid, but he's weak. And then look, like this, it's like he's almost overtaken by a demon, and then that one's communicating with him. He will hear your prayers tonight when you're alone. He will find you. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, what? Like he comes back to his consciousness.
yeah, and you can see his pupils come back.
So here we go. Like he's pissed. His friend Johnny's pissed at him, and Johnny is
His photographer, I think.
It's Nicholas Lash. This is Nicholas Lash's dad, who was
Yeah,
best pals. That's why he said Hank was his godfather. So like that's the connection there. Again, they're trying to take stuff down, but he's like, you just want to be famous, which kind of leads you into understand like, okay, that maybe that's why he eventually started to write books, because he just wanted fame. It wasn't
yeah,
necessarily about taking people down. And then, he calls him out for the lipstick on his collar, which nice little touch to add that in. Again, this is where he says he doesn't even feel bad. He feels like he's giving into destiny. So this spell that she puts men under, and it happens even when they're in public, because they're like, there's a part where they're walking down the street and everybody just turns and is like,
yeah. It says that he doesn't notice, but every man turns to look at her.
yeah. So he wants to protect her from Walter, right? So she's
Yeah.
basically manipulating him,
And
even though,
Walter,
even though it's clear that she does have feelings, genuine feelings for both of them, it seems.
Yeah. She. It's interesting because in a simpler story, she would just be made out to be a villain, but she's there's gray to her, man. Like she like you said, she clearly cares for both these men, and she tells them both, and it seems very real. But at the same time, there's something about her that she knows that she needs to survive. So she's doing this out of survival, and you can tell that she's a desperate person.
Yeah. Here we start to get even more into the supernatural when Walter comes upon this, I guess the leader of this like occult, and you see like his forked tongue, his red eyes, his ears almost look a little pointy.
I love that panel, like the forked tongue in the eye. Like that's it's so subtle and so creepy.
Mm-hmm.
This book was creepy, man. Like it's it's rare that a comic book makes me feel creepy, but there's a very creepy feeling to this book. Again, the coloring is so great.
Man. And Walter's also considered a crooked cop too. So it's like he's in this thing and he's like, see that? It was stupid, Walter. And he's like,
but he's not evil, because later on, like when there's like that big murder scene that we're gonna come up, and like the other cops are talking about Walter, and they're like, yeah, he's a dirty cop, but I don't think he's like a psychopath, like.
Yeah. And it's also like Hank is the one that's like throwing Walter under the bus because he's trying to help Josephine. So like that's the whole point of that. So like their worlds are going to collide. I love we gotta kind of speed up. The wife is finds the lipstick on the collar,
panel on the bottom with the teeth. Then
the demon, he's like, oh, this won't take any time at all, as he lures himself in there, and you already know what's about to happen, right? Like it's horrible. Like the fucking wife is gonna die. But then we come back to the present day, where now Nick Lash is out of the hospital and he's kind of going back to the scene. The cops tell him, I wouldn't be here if I were you, but he's trying to find some sort of clue as to what happened. Who is this woman? And because he has no idea. And all he has to go on anything is that unpublished manuscript, which he also calls out, like there's some truth to what he's reading. Not all of this is not real. Just fantastic, dude. Just like, and then even like meeting with this like this publisher that's trying to be like, hey, like if you got it, we'll pay you. While it seems like this could be innocent, I can't remember exactly where this goes, but you almost want to think that maybe there's some like ulterior motive. How would she know to ask him that there's this unpublished book?
And I mean, and why is the manuscript so important that she literally pulled it out of the fire with him when the car exploded? Like it's
and left it with him.
Yeah. I mean, Brubaker and Phillips are such a dynamic storytelling team, man.
Yeah.
Like they're at this point, it's like they're almost flawless in their collaboration.
I agree. There's nothing they can do that's not good in my eyes, you know. And then as he's looking in the past, that he sees this horrific story with his godfather's wife who got brutally murdered. And then we come back and we're back in the past again.
We're back with Walter and his partner.
Yeah. It's just so good, dude. Like I'm telling you, like the characterization, the seamless transition between the multiple plot lines that are going on. And the
multiple narrators that are going on too. You know,
it's not easy. Not everybody can pull this off.
That's the perfect word for it.
Yeah, not very many people can pull it off. Brubaker and Phillips are like flawless in their execution. And you know, Walter is going to find Josephine, and she cleared out, dude. She's done. She's on the run. We get these fucking creepy, almost like I want to call them like golems or something.
Yes, you know what? That's they like a like a golem, like a supernatural golem. You're right. Yeah. They're creepy, and like they look human, but like with the glasses at night and everything, there's something inhuman about them, you know?
Yeah, like they don't have eyes almost, probably behind those glasses. So they take Walter, dude, and like, you got 3 days to make your delivery. Fucking just leaves, and he's like, damn her, she's gonna screw everything up. So like, again, like somebody, like he's doing something, right? And we don't know what's happening. We don't know what his motives are. And I love that. Like you can't even figure out what he could possibly be planning. Even going back and reading this again, I didn't remember. So it was like, I really didn't know what was about to take place.
Yeah, is he trying to do something to save his own ass? Is he trying to do something, you know, like it's kept in the dark, and it's good because at this point, like all the characters, like, you know, you don't know why they're doing what they're doing, and everything is starting to collide.
Yes. And now Hank and Josephine are coming up on this like creepy house, and she's like, I'm not who you think I am. And as they enter this house, there's this fucking homeless dude who also, while they were walking around, didn't look at her. He didn't look at her. So that's why he was like kind of like thinking about like what's going on. And then as a gun goes off, he takes his shirt off, and you see these like glyphs all over his skin. And he's like, just like the ones of the master. And she's like, I remember you. You were the scared kid who pissed himself in the corner. And he's like, dude, don't mock me. That was the greatest night of my life. So then you, again, like up here, I love this. You see this like fire burning, and you see this evil looking dude with like, again, Lovecraftian like squid like tentacles coming out. And then this is great too. This is the first time you see her in this light where she has this menacing look to her face.
Yeah.
In that bottom left corner on the second page.
Yeah, that's a great panel.
Oh my God, dude. That's when you like, okay, this she's nothing to she's something to be reckoned with, you know? And then she's not control. So not only can she inadvertently control people with, I'm assuming, her pheromones or something, or like some spell she puts people under, but she can literally control them by saying something, telling him to go to hell, and he shoots himself. And again, so Hank's like, oh my God, basically like, what did I fucking get into? What's happening? She's crazy. But throughout that his mind tricks himself into saying like, nothing's really wrong. You know, she helped me. And he comes back to his house, and he gets arrested because there's been a murder. Again, we're just building the tension. We don't really learn who or what's been going on. I love this too, where this dude's head's just like half blown off.
Yeah, that's a gangster that is being accused of paying off the cop Walter. And again, you got all these people, and everything is coming together, and it's very seamless. And you know, at this point in the story, you're like, all right, this shit is getting kicked into high gear right now, and it's awesome.
I love this too. As she's sitting in a diner, she sees the newspaper, so then she's pissed because like now she thinks it's Walter. Walter's gone too far, and he's being questioning, but they got nothing on it because he didn't do it.
And this is the scene where they're like, the cops are like, well, who did this? And like, they know that like Hank didn't do it. And then they wonder if Walter did, because, you know, Hank was trying to write a story about him and outs him as a crooked cop. And when his captain's like, yeah, he's crooked as hell, but I don't think he's capable of like slaughtering a pregnant woman, you know, like, and, you know, you do get the sense that, you know, Walter may be bad, but I don't necessarily think he would do that. So
exactly
what's going on? Yeah.
I love this. Descriptions match your pal Mayday and his crew. And and Luke really didn't show for his interview today. No sign of him as any of his residences because he's been killed. So that's why he didn't show up. And like now even Walter, dude, like I love this. You flash back, he keeps his composure here, and I like that. But then when he comes to himself, he fucking pukes because he's like, he wants to kill himself, basically. Like he can't
Yeah.
believe what the demon that he made a deal with actually did. We get them reuniting again. She's just constantly manipulating, dude. She comes back to him. You're not frail, you're not evil, let me go, give me my freedom. So what does that mean? Like, how can he
Yeah.
give her freedom?
I love this sequence too, where like Walter like looks back on his life, and he said he always had some kind of sight for supernatural things,
Yes, I
seeing the
know, it just makes
unseen.
it again, like that's what I was talking about, like in the beginning, where like you kind of get inklings that he knows about this shit, but like him
Yeah,
being able to see those like tentacles coming out and the dead bodies, but then when you pan out, it's just two normal guys and like bags of like, I don't know, flour or some sort of like
yeah,
grain.
and that's what I read about unsettling and creepy, which is like why Lovecraft stories are so well, because like they're always about that. Like there's an unseen veil of like chaos and unbelievable horrors just lurking beneath the surface,
Yeah.
and you really get that feeling here. Like there's a sense of dread throughout this whole story that makes it a very fascinating read.
Yeah. So now he's going to go off on his little mission. We get Johnny picking up Hank and getting pissed at Hank because his wife was just murdered, but all he wants to do is go to Josephine. Back to Walter again, he's looking into this hangman thing. He's going to,
Yeah,
I'll kind of like move along,
yeah,
but
because at this point the story is picking up steam,
yeah.
so everything's coming together. Like now you're starting to see that all these three stories are heading in the same direction.
Hank gets beaten, gets taken by the fucking cult. They're going to string him up.
Yeah,
Josephine meets Walter. He turns on her. He fucking hands her the book that she needed, right? But didn't
yeah.
translate everything. So, because she, I guess, can't translate it herself, but he knows this world, so he's able to do it a little bit. He cracks her over. Flashback to Hank, all strung up, dude, like fucking bloodied, like looks like he's been whipped. And now we're gonna meet I don't know, I guess the head demon. I don't know really what to call him.
Yeah,
Walter brings Josephine there, but as he's going to hand him to him, boom, kills two of those golems, right?
love that panel, man.
And then he has this like weird knife. And what does he do? He's like, he can't
I love I
kill.
love I love the narration here real quick. A stone dagger older than history, sharpened by time. I mean,
Yeah.
that's poetic. That's
Oh, it's
Brubaker
great.
being.
Yeah. There
Yeah,
is like a definitely like a poeticness to the writing in this book that you
yeah.
don't see as much in his other work.
I think
And
that's like the inspiration of like the more like flowery prose that Lovecraft had. Like where
yeah,
it just makes everything seem more grandiose in a good way. Like it gives it a lot of like weight.
I love this. And okay, so the head demon's name is Bishop, right? He looks over and he's like, I guess we're both showing our true faces now. Josephine comes, rescues Hank, and as Walter's fighting with him, he's like, "Fool prick, you can't kill me." He's like, "I'm not here to kill you." And you don't see what he does, but he takes
Yeah.
something from the creature before he tosses him into the pit. Josephine and Hank are on their way out, but he's like, "But wait!" And he shoots the fucking kid in the head, or one of the cultists.
Yeah.
And as they make their escape, like you said, everything's coming to a head. And he come upon Walter, boom, shoots him, not realizing that Walter
He
wasn't
just saved their
really,
life.
yeah, he wasn't really trying to turn on them. And he hands something to Josephine, and it's the eyes. He took the eyes from Bishop. That plays out as like, okay, now Hank and Josephine are on the run together. We see that the baby this is horrible, was ripped from Hank's wife, and now is the where he gets Bishop gets reincarnated. But you see that because he took the eyes, he comes back blinded.
So now we have Dominic's son being possessed by this guy, like
Yeah,
essentially.
just crazy, dude. And now we get Nick Lash coming to go to question or ask his dad about Josephine and who it is, and his dad just loses his fucking mind after that, and then it ends. And what a crazy first
Yeah.
volume. I'm probably gonna finish the rest of the series.
Yeah, I
I'm
think so
probably,
too, man. I mean, I read most of it a couple of years ago when I was in the hospital for a week because I was sick,
yeah,
and I had the trades with me, and like honestly, like those things kept me sane because I was so into the story that like it made it bearable to be where I was.
I feel
But
you.
I'd love to reread it again and
Yep.
like with a clear head. And I mean, again, perfect for Halloween, man. I mean, you got a lot of horror here, and like I would call this more a horror book than a noir book.
Yeah,
So
horror noir is what I'd
yes,
probably refer to it as.
yeah,
But yeah, it's funny because like we keep reading these volume ones, and it's sometimes I can like wait and not read the rest. But I mean, you saw it with Lock and Key. We were talking about that recently, which funny enough, this book is dedicated to Joe Hill for
yeah,
inspiration. But yeah, I ended up reading all of Lock and Key, and now I'm probably gonna go read all of Fatale. If you haven't picked this
same.
book up, if you're a fan of Brubaker and Phillips, this is one of their best books. There's 5 volumes. I believe there's 5, maybe 6. No, there's 5.
And it's one that doesn't get talked about as much as like Criminal
Yeah.
and like Reckless and some other like their bigger hits, but
No,
it's good, man.
it is fantastic. Highly recommended. Go pick it up. Go check out the rest of our Halloween horror themed playlists that we have on the channel, and stay tuned for more. This definitely won't be the last time we talk about Brubaker and Phillips. Maybe for October it will be, but we got some more stuff that we can talk about as well. And make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.
All right, we'll see you next time, guys.